All I really want in life, all I really need is to live a long and meaningful life. That's all that really matters to me.
Your first international flight to a place that you have never been, to meet a warm and kind and fair.
I met a woman in 2012 from Russia. Flew out to Russia for 10 days and we hung out, got to know each other, eventually deciding to get married. And so she came to the United States on a K-1 visa, moved out to California for work. And the whole time I really felt like something was missing.
But little did you realize it was yourself that you would discover.
I often see a tarot card that gets pulled up with my readings. It's the Eight of Cups. I pulled this yesterday. Perfect card for my past, because I'm through my past. And in this card, this man, he's walking away in the night. Around him is a river, symbolizing emotion, symbolizing sorrow and turmoil. And he's staring up at the moonlight, which is often a symbol of rebirth, death and rebirth of oneself or personal transformation. And behind him, he's leaving 8 cups, but they're positioned in such a way that something's missing. And so I'm driving back to Texas, and I was just I grieved. Not only did I grieve the loss of her, but I grieved the loss of every relationship that I'd had, because I repeated the same pattern with people. Like, I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, always something missing in the relationship, always something not there for me, you know? Metaphorically, I left multiple times. This is my fucking card, man.
There are angels on the other side, and you believe they were your guides, telling you she was not the one. But all they were trying to do was protect her from you.
Hashtag
On your land, you thought you went there to find.
preamps are sounding good.
The name of the album is 100 Summers, and I found an illustrator. His name is Zulfikri Mokagal, and he's fantastic. His work is so detailed and personal and passionate.
Looking in the mirror.
In Newman's world, there's a man standing in a grass field, and there's this country road to his left, and there's a tree in the middle of the piece. And on the left side of the tree, it's this young, budding tree. And then the image kind of fades right in the middle to another picture where that same man is sitting on a park bench. He's old. In front of him is a sculpture of a sundial, a symbol of time. Behind him in the sunset, another symbol of life's endings.
Man's world.
Zulfikri and I worked together to try and create these extended symbolic pieces of artwork. So it was just cool to see. The concept itself is personal transformation, a rebirth. It's really a culmination of a lot of stories of my own personal life. Some of them are fictional, and some of them insights into my family members and past relationships.
I don't daydream about being a rich man to pay the bills and keep my passions alive.
The first song is also the last song, which is kind of symbolic of this concept of rebirth. On the front of the album, there's the tree of life. You know, trees have cycles, right, through the seasons, surrounded by the flower of life, sacred geometry. On the back of the CD, there's a butterfly and a Luna moth, symbolism towards rebirth. But the song itself was actually the last song that we wrote. I wrote it a week before I went into the studio.
If I could have one wish, it would be to live a life full of meaning and wonder.
Ellis Paul wanted wanted to hear what it would sound like stripped down. So I actually just went into the studio by myself.
It's much softer than it was before. Well, you know, I mean, it's easy to pull me out, so why don't I just play it?
Will that work?
Yeah, perfect.
We went in through some bass in, and then it just kind of morphed. And so Doug Pettibone started playing with the EBO. We ended up with 2 different versions. And I felt like both versions had a meaningful experience. But that song was sort of the capstone for the whole thing. It just brought it all together. Black peppercorns, cardamom pods, star anise, cinnamon, turmeric, and ginger.
Okay.
And you mix that with a little bit of black tea, and you boil it. With chai, the complexity of the spices and how they marry themselves together, the health benefits of them, it helps cool my body. The racing mind.
And why folk for you?
I started in folk because of listening room environments. To see people sit down and like listen.
Originally from Texas. I'm gonna sing you some stories, some storytelling songs. This song's called Santa Barbara.
You know, these people that get on stage, they have something to say. And there was so much in my life that I needed to talk about. I began to realize what was the message I wanted to give to the world.
I had the chance to visit Paris, France a few years ago, and it was a beautiful experience. But I also just recently went through a divorce, so this was inspired by those experiences. This is called Returning to Paris.
For me, it was about the struggles that I went through, but most importantly, it was the struggles that other people went through. I found that there was a lot of power as a songwriter in telling other people's stories, especially those stories that are unconventional, often unheard.
Thank you. My father is a machinist. He builds gear drives, and these gear drives are used to irrigate crops. My grandfather was a cowboy, and he herded cattle in Hutchinson County, Texas, until he retired. And the last few years of his life, he spent living with my family. This song is about their stories intersecting.
To combine their stories together and create an arc that's very unconventional, it gives people an opportunity to listen to stories they would never really hear, stories that are close to my heart.
It's called The Last Cowboy in Hutchinson County. The machinist builds gear drives that turn the water pumps around to pull the moisture from the earth, from the outskirts of town, to quench the fields of white corn for the harvest ahead, to fatten the longhorn steer, make a damn good loaf of bread wrapped in a burlap rag cut from the sack that held the corn, tucked in the satchel of the herdsman from whom the machinist was born. These are changing times for a dying breed, and for the only son of a simple man who cut the teeth of his dreams on books and magazines, and the World Wide Web in his hand. His future is too bright for him to see. He's the son of the last cowboy in Hutchinson County.
So as I started writing these songs, this concept emerged of tying them all together to kind of create an arc of my life and the journey of my family and how each of those individuals went through some sort of personal change and transformation.
In a two-piece pinstripe suit and tie, with the morning sleep still in your eyes, you part the Bible like Moses parts the sea. You've got so many lives left to set free, while the camera sits on the shelf next to a portrait of the Lord himself. Your children play out in the yard, sowing memories and reaping scars. We are made from the dust upon the earth, and to that dust we will return. I want to take you to the river. We'll cast our nets into the waters. We can catch us some dinner and leave the saving souls for later.
I was born and raised in a Protestant family. My father is a Baptist minister, so there's a lot of religious undertones to my music. And it's wild that I no longer go to church. I'm not a big fan of church, but yet I'm standing in front of people delivering a message, just like my father was.
On the sixth day of creation, God put Adam in a slumber, took a rib from his side to create another.
To see the oppression of women, the unspoken victories of the women in the Bible, and to hear how the Apostle Paul talked about women being submissive to men. And I grew up around that, and yet I saw all of the evidence of strong mothers in nature and in the world. It just didn't reconcile with me. And so I thought, what if she hadn't eaten the apple? Like, would we know the name of the wife that was the son of Adam and Eve? We don't know her name.
Oh, if Eve hadn't eaten the apple, would we know of the name of the wife of Cain, or the widow who gladly gave her mites? Oh, if Eve hadn't taken a bite.
It's a difficult song to listen to, but I felt like I had to tell the narrative from inside the creationist story in order to really get my message across on how we should be treating women with equal love and respect in society.
Oh, if Eve hadn't taken a bite.
These sort of things I love to talk about, so the message is really critical. What's surrounding the message is also important. It has to be delivered in a vessel that is sonically acceptable.
I thought I'd check in. Did you pick up the phone? It's been a few months now, and I know your life has changed. You and I, we haven't spoken since Holly passed away.
I chose Blue Rock Studios in Wimberley, Texas. Their producer, his name's Chris Bell. He's recorded artists like Don Henley, Christopher Cross, Jacob Dylan. He was just a pro. He brought in some really great players, solid musicians like Roscoe Beck, who toured with Leonard Cohen and Eric Johnson. Doug Pettibone, who toured with John Mayer, Jewel, Ray LaMontagne. And then I worked with a number of different artists like Matt Hubbard, who's worked with Willie Nelson. I was really fortunate to work with some great people who all helped me refine the songs.
There's safety in the shadows of the cynical and afraid.
So I think on that last verse, you can just come in the chorus again.
Okay, yeah, so, and what about the middle verse? maybe off of the first and third verse and play the second verse, or should I just stay off of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that?
So
Okay.
I'll come in with the first verse, and then you come in at the chorus,
And I'll stay in.
and stay in
through
until the second
end of the-
chorus,
End of the second chorus.
and then come out on the third verse, and then back up on the chorus.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I could play some higher register than him, like just swells on this thing, just like,
Oh, wow.
might be cool.
I remember having conversations with Doug Pettibone. What are we going to do here? I almost hear like an electric baritone. And he was like, I love that idea. And then Roscoe would say, I've got a Fender Bass 6. It's given to me by one of the co-founders of Fender Guitars. I've got it at home. I could go get it and bring it tomorrow. It was just this beautiful chemistry of discovery and playing with the songs and bringing them to life.
You were a treasure chest of the gold rush, once a dangerous and lawless place. A bandit and a gambler's haven, found in the spoils to these United States. Your tragedies, they redefined you like a phoenix quickened in the hills. Rebirth from the ashes of earthquakes, wildfires, and oil spill.
In the process of my own personal journey, I also had to go through a spiritual transformation. And I have.
I felt the page of my story turn as the
I
road.
wanted the album to have symbolism in it so that the esoteric can see that and say, hey, what is he talking about? The colors and the sacred geometry, the Christian religious symbolism, all of that stuff was very intentional, subtle enough that people who were looking out for it could pick up on it. If I had to pick one specific message for people to take away from this project, have an open mind and an open heart. Focus on what you have, focus on who you are, enjoy your life. Let's focus on the beauty.
Santa Barbara, I have come to hear your mission bells ring, to feel the warm sand on my feet and the balmy Pacific breeze on my skin. I am here to start a new